Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, we all went to school. We all took earth science. And we all remember seeing that diagram inside of our science book showing us the earth cut in half and displaying a molten iron core followed by layers leading out to the outer crust of our world. I've been doing some research into this. And what most people are unaware of is the furthest any human being has ever dug a hole is only 12 kilometers deep, about 7.8 miles down. And that's a deep Russian borehole. Now, when they were doing this excavation and digging this hole, they were astonished to find the further and further they got, the more and more they realized the makeup, the geological makeup of the ground underneath their feet was not matching the seismographic predictions of what they were going to find. And in fact, they found soft sediment and water at depths that it should not have existed according to the standard model of our Earth and what we were presented in school. So now my question to you is, how can they sit there and teach our children that this is fact without ever even giving them the caveat that this is just a theory? Now, if you go back and you look at older books, they have disclaimers at the bottom of these diagrams saying that this is just a theory. However, nowadays they don't. They pass this nonsense off as truth. Now, the reason I'm saying it's nonsense is because anybody who has a basic understanding of metallurgy will be fully aware that iron cannot produce a magnetic field at temperatures in excess of 750 degrees Fahrenheit because the links in the chains of the atoms that make up that metal do not align properly when it's at that temperature to generate a magnetic field. Now you may ask me, why is this important? This is important because the entire reason our Earth supposedly isn't being fried by radiation is because that molten iron core is producing the rotation of liquid outside of that metal, that molten iron core at the center. It has a layer of liquid just on the outside of it. And that magnetic core causes that liquid to rotate in a clockwise direction according to science, according to what their model tells us is true. In turn, that rotation not only aids to the spin of our Earth, but it generates the protective shield that shields our Earth from radiation, giving us the aurora borealis, etc., etc. And this is what they tell us to be the case. However, if that is true, according to what they are saying, then how is a molten iron core that can't generate a magnetic field creating the spin of a liquid around it, in turn creating the shielding that protects us from the radiation of space? So what I'm telling you is, everything they have presented as far as what lies under your feet is nothing more than a fairy tale. It's nothing more than a story told to children to get them to stop asking questions. And I'm going to take this one step further and venture to guess that we don't have even a basic understanding as individuals of any of our natural world around us. Now, here's something else that is fascinating about what we see around us on a day-to-day basis. Think about a tree, for example. You take that tree and you plant that seed in the ground, right? And you watch that tree grow over the course of, say, 50 years in time lapse. That tree grows exponentially from nothing, from that seed. That infinitesimal, tiny little seed will grow into a great redwood tree given enough time. And that's fine. That's nature. However, there is an anomaly in this process that few people ever recognize. And I'll admit, for a long time, this slipped my reasoning as well. But it's something that fundamentally changes your understanding of your natural world, because there's no reason, logically, for a redwood tree to be physically possible according to what we are taught as far as the understanding of the natural world. And this is what I'm getting at. So you take that tree, let's add up everything that plant pulls out of the ground in weight. Nutrients, water, bacteria. You can even calculate the information that it's receiving through its roots based on fungal neuron pathways if you want to. We can go to that extent. But you're going to find something very interesting as soon as you start adding up all of this nutrition that the tree takes to grow. It never equals the mass of that plant. So what I'm getting at is, you can pull up as much water, as much nutrients out of that ground and add up the weight of what that stuff is, and it's never going to equal the weight of the tree. It's never going to equal out. The tree is always going to have a bigger mass than the mass that it took out of the ground, okay? And that is a fact. But what does that tell us? That tells us that that tree is literally creating itself from nothing. And as crazy as that sounds, that is the fact. It's the fact of the matter. There is no way that a great redwood tree pulls out of the ground as much nutrients in weight as that mass of the tree is. Now that tells us something very interesting. That tells us everything we think we knew about the world around us is flawed. Because if you can witness a tree grow and prove to yourself by measuring the resources it took, that it took less resources than the weight of that tree, that means there's a magic there that we don't understand. I don't think we're meant to understand it. The science never addresses this. We never learn about it in school, and it's just glossed over. People need to open their eyes and understand that the more and more you allow yourself to be influenced by so-called professors of truth, the further and further you're going to find yourself from any semblance of reality. Just because somebody can give you a description of how something is doesn't mean that it's true. They can falsify all the evidence in the world they want to back up their point, but it doesn't mean it's true. Every bit of data that you read in your school book tells you what the chemical compound of the earth beneath your feet should be, right? But if you're like these Russian guys and go out there and take a drill and actually drill into the ground, you find out that what you were told is nonsense. The same thing happens if you observe how a tree grows. You observe how a tree goes and you realize everything you were told about biology of plants is bullshit. That tree has to be producing that from somewhere, but it's not by the means we were taught, and our own two eyes can see this. So how far does this extend to the rest of what we are being told about our natural world? Oil? Do you really think oil is dinosaurs and plant material? I don't think so, my friends. I don't think so at all. Just based on the fact that there's scientists out there that can produce oil from non-organic material right now. Oh wait, I bet you they didn't tell you that one in your science book. Everything that we've ever been taught tells us that oil comes from carbon-based material, organic material. However, you can produce oil without organic material. They're doing it in labs every single day. Interestingly enough, they tell us that oil's a finite resource, right? Why is it then that we haven't run out of oil, and in fact more and more is being discovered every day to the point where the United States is now energy independent? What I'm saying is, a lot of these narratives that we are given to us because people at that level realize that for most of us, hearing that something is true makes it true. Very few people are willing to do the legwork. Not only that, but very few people have the time to devote to watching a tree grow and measuring the nutrients that it takes in compared to its mass. And even And even if somebody like me can offer concrete, tangible evidence that everything that they've presented to us is true, is false, I'm just going to be dismissed simply due to the fact that it's already become true in the minds of the indoctrinated. My goal here isn't to teach you guys what is true. It's to open your eyes to the fact that I know absolutely nothing as far as what is true. All I know is I can identify false truths. I can identify when somebody is sitting there and telling me a lie. I can see through it. And I've realized that this entire system we live in, we choose to be a slave of this system to one extent or another, me included, okay? The key to breaking your chains is realizing that you yourself are capable of discerning reality and using a logical thought process to do so. Don't depend on somebody else to tell you what's true, because I've just given you 2 examples in less than 12 minutes of how 2 of the fundamental, most solid beliefs that everybody thought was true are absolutely flawed. 3 if you include oil. But just ask yourself that question. If somebody like me can poke a hole in 3 of science's most fundamental truths, then how true is anything they tell you? God bless and have a wonderful morning.